Hey guys, welcome to the Heart of David. Hope you guys are doing well today. Is hell real? That is the main question. That's the main question. What would be the entire purpose of Jesus coming in the first place? The Old Testament, all the writings, all the prophets, all the teachers, everything you've ever heard in your life that's tried to help you in some way. What would be the purpose of all that? What would be the purpose of all these teachings? Seriously, what would be the purpose of all these things if there wasn't a hell? Because these are all lessons to take us towards the truth. Because if we didn't have to learn anything and have to take a narrow road, as wide as the path to destruction, it's quite obvious through the scriptures themselves. What I find to be, I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to come back to it in a second, because that's just my introduction. There's ways in which you can think of how that could really scare you, and it should. That is the purpose. That isn't the sole purpose, but it's to tell you that there's something that you have no idea about that is so scary. It's really scary. So with that introduction done, I put a because of the birth pains we're going through, we know all these things are coming. We know they're coming, and the age of grace is closing. I don't know, during the tribulation, will people be able to repent? I believe, yes, but I don't want to get into that part right now. I've started a list here of things that have happened after, let's say, my last video. I've started to write them down, the things that have happened. There was a strange volcano that went off in the Philippines. You can look at it. It's nothing powerful. It's actually really an anomaly of volcanoes that went off. But listen to these. I had to look at this, and I never hear people talking about this. I mean, in geology circles and stuff like that. Not like I'm in geology circles or anything, but those types of things interest me. Do you know? Picture all the ocean water that there is over the earth, the seas, the waterways, everything, the rivers. I looked, and people think of the Mariana Trench, the Aleutian Trench, and those types of things, and yeah, sure, those things can go down at a maximum depth of maybe 10 kilometers or so, but in most places, the ocean is 1 or 2 kilometers deep. But when you take into consideration the girth of our Earth, and you measure to its center, to its diameter, it's endless. And in there, you have the crust, you have, the inner, outer, all types of different crusts and magmas, and there is statistically what they think as at least tens of times, if not hundreds, of more molten magma than there is ocean. Just think about that. Just think about that. And they've just discovered this of recent. You can go look this up. That they're finding blobs. That's what they're saying. They're finding blobs of lava that's just in places that they never imagined it would be. Because there is a geological process that happens in oceans, on land, and stuff like that. But can you imagine the level of magma that God can make rise to the surface at any time. And this magma can go off for as long as it wants. Have you seen the recent eruption in the Icelandic fields? Wow, man. The power of God. Or Hawaii? At 1,200 foot. That's a fountain of lava that can go on for, I don't know, man, and like I know hours at a time, as tall as the CN Tower of Toronto. So like 120 stories feet of lava. Can you imagine being by that? Pardon me, just a sec. Sometimes I gotta check if I took my med. I did. By the time I get to this video, I've taken a painkiller by about maybe 20 minutes or so. Oh, maybe about half an hour. It takes about 40 minutes to work. Yes, and I want to say this before I get on the topic of hell. What was it again? Yes. There's a reason I'm telling you about this magma, because this, what is the name of it in Naples? There's like 6 million people around this. It doesn't look like a cone volcano where those ones look big. You're like, oh wow, those things could really go off. No, it's the ones that are small, and you can't tell because most of it's under the ground, and there's huge calderas and there's lava fields. It's not just one space. There's pockets of, because it's a caldera and one leads to the other. And man, you know, when there's one in Naples called Flagré, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Flagré. It's a super volcano. The last time it went off was in like 1548. It's a super volcano. They just had an earthquake yesterday at 4.2. They know it's going to go off. This thing is going to go off. That's what it's indicating. You can go look at that. This is, it looks more likely to go off than Mount Rainier. This is where we are. There are indications all around the world about super volcanoes being active in the least, of earthquake swarms. But 4.2 is a very big earthquake for a volcano, which indicates the magma is rising. Crazy. This one has the ability to change the earth. This one I'm talking about. Go look at that in Naples. Sorry guys, it's my throat, man. The immediate vicinity is, I think it's 500,000 people, but something like that. You know, the surrounding city is like 6 million people. I don't know if it's as big as Yellowstone, but it is a super volcano. A super volcano, they said that so how much lava is this? So they indicate it could be 18 kilometers deep of lava. You do the math. By 900 square kilometers. 900 square kilometers by 18 kilometers deep. What could that do? Tsunami, earthquakes, covering the sun. You know, this is all building up. And this is why I guess I'm preaching on hell. So I'll get into that. Let me pace for a second here. Move around. Maybe I should just find a way to do my videos walking. Yeah. Where is that? About 5 years ago, maybe it was a bit more than that. It's probably 5 years. I'll just say it was 5 years. there's a lot of things happening in my life, transitions. I came into this place, I was quite sick, I could barely walk, I could barely speak, and I just had a lot of trouble. I put that on because I was going to read. And it was like a crossroads in my life where I was, although I believed I was starting to learn. I wanted to learn more about God. And when you're starting to, I was, raised in the Catholic system. And I started to read the Bible. But I was also looking at other stuff that I shouldn't have, because I didn't know any better. And it was right at the time where I met this person, this narcissist in my life. And it was also at another time where I was talking to this woman who is now passed, but I think the things I'm talking about, I'm telling you for a reason. They were associated. I had my very first sleep paralysis episode, and I believe it had to do with the things of those which I won't go into deeper. Could have been a warning, I don't know. But the first one I got, in sleep paralysis you can have, like I said, I think there's 4 or 5 different variations. And there's like mixed, where you can have different variations of either floating, being sexually abused, being physically abused, you'll feel like something is trying to smother you with a pillow or something like that. You feel like you're being buried alive. You can see these things up close. Like I said, you're floating or flying. And what's the other one? In any case, it was my first one, and it scared the hell out of me. I felt like I was stuck in hell. The very first one I had, oh yes, this is it. And this hasn't happened for some time. I bet you I get one tonight just for talking about this. You can see, I believe they're the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. That's what I believe. The things that used to be on this earth, probably in the millions. When they were killed, their spirits were left. And for some reason, I've asked God, well, God, why do you allow these sleep paralysis things to happen? They're evil. In any case, you can see something in front of you that appears like a friend, a family, someone you've seen, and it can take the face of it. That's happened to me on a number of occasions. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe even more. But the very first time it was my mom, but it wasn't my mom. And I was in my old family room where we would sit and watch TV. And it was going back and forth, and like everywhere I tried to go, it was like blocking my way. And it looked like my mom, and it felt like a big warning. And like my mom was a demon, I'm sorry to say. My mother was a demon. I've seen friends and people who I've seen in my life but never even talked to, and they looked exactly like them. And there's a violence of it. It felt like hell. I knew it was hell somehow. That's not the real hell, but that's just a show. If you've had a sleep paralysis episode, you know. These things try to sexually abuse you. They try to hurt you by making you feel like they're burying you alive with a pillow and you can't do anything. And the only way to get out of it, by the way, is to say Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's other ways you can try to push out of it, and you'll always come out of it, unless you have a heart attack and die in your sleep. But when I woke up, I realized, like, man, there is a hell. That's the first time I think I've said that. I realized, man, there is. And that scared me. And I do believe that's one of the reasons why I really started to begin to look into this, but then I was in a bad place in my life with really bad pain. I didn't know what these things were. I was still searching for what they were. And in any case, this got into some type of relationship, and it got in the way of that journey. Let's just say that. I don't want to go further on that. Just give me a sec. I knew through there that there was something. We've all heard preaching of hell and all this type of stuff throughout our life. If you are in a family that you're in a church or whatever, and that's what they should do. Apologies, guys. My abdomen is bad. It's so tough to stay in this picture. I'm just gonna go through this as quickly as I can. I was can't tell until I try to stay still and speak. I've been talking with a brother in Christ on a number of occasions, and he always says the same thing to me, which is true. And he says, I don't care what people call me. I don't care what people do to me. Because their outcome is going to be worse than anything that you've ever been through in your life. And you're going to multiply that by many, many, many times. Personally, in my life, there were a number of occasions that I can count that I was in the highest degree of pain possible for a human being. And when I think of those, I already understand. I already understand what it will partially be like. And it'll be like that forever. And so he says, and some people just don't know. People take different views of this, right? You look at someone who's mocking God, and you might get angry, but the outcome of that person is going to be burning torment forever. And I don't want to get technical in this. I just want to read you the things. I don't care. There's people who say, well, death, Hades, hell, Gehenna. Jesus talks about Hades with, Lazarus, right? So it appears that when Lazarus died, he went to Hades, which must be hell. And then people get technical. He was burning in flames. Tell my brothers. And he said, and then he says, even if I sent Moses, they wouldn't believe, right? In any case. Yeah, I'm getting confused, guys. I have to take a break. I'm going to read you some verses, and I'm going to leave. I saw this yesterday, and this is a reason that I decided to do this. I was looking for videos about what hell is like. And, obviously because people can use AI, pay for AI now, to make movie-like stuff. People are starting to make some good stuff, and I think people should make more of this. The thing is, people want to get technical with you, and they want to say, no, this is what he really meant. This is when it's going to happen. It doesn't happen when you die, or it happens later in a judgment. What does it matter? Because when you die, even if you and I were to die, and we have to wait until the judgment for anything, what do you think that'll be like? Your lights will go out, and then your lights will go on. Do you think you're going to feel some weight Do you think you're going to feel like it was 1,000 years till you waited? No, it's going to be right away. That's what I believe. When everyone goes to sleep at night, how can you measure that? You wake up, boom, it's morning. But did everyone else, was it the same? No, because when you were asleep, there were people moving around, and so... The reality is this. You're going to burn alive. You're going to burn, and it's going to feel, it's going to be in a way that you cannot be destroyed. So no matter what, your nervous system, you're probably not going to even have a nervous system. It'll feel like you have a nervous system and all these brain function and all this, but it's not going to be like it is, where it can decay and it can no, you're going to burn forever. I don't know what your body's going to appear like. What does it matter? It's going to feel like your innards, feel like your bowels are being torn apart and burned. You ever put I'm not saying do this, but you can picture falling on your hand, you putting your whole hand on a stove element, and never ever for the rest of your life being able to take it away. Then take your head and put it into it. Put your whole body, put you in a frying pan, put you in boiling water. It's going to be a degree so much hotter than that. Let's listen. So I just don't want to say this to scare you. I actually want to give you some verses. Let's see here. Matthew 13:41-42, New King James Version. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. You think Jesus is just kidding? Sorry, I'm just kidding, guys. I just wanted you to go to heaven. There will be wailing of gnashing of teeth. So for the first second, the very first second that let's just say you die and go to hell like that, okay? Because it's going to feel that way anyways. And then there's a lake of fire that comes after that. It's going to be very quick for you. As soon as you're there, you're going to hear cries right away. And you're going to feel something come over you that's going to be so encompassing. Man. Picture the worst heat wave. Man, I don't even know. I don't even know how. Skin searing, ripping, tearing. For eternity. For eternity. That is the cost of ignoring the Bible in front of your eyes. We are given so long to repent of these things. Matthew 10:28, New King James Version. And don't fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Watch the video. I may do an edit, a screen share, do a video of this. The one I want you to see, Revelation 20:15. And anyone not found in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. It's quite evident there's fire in this. Just look at the parable of Lazarus, man. If your hand causes you to sin, Matthew 9:43-44. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It's better for you to enter into life maimed, rather than having two hands to go to hell, into the fire that shall never be quenched, where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. What is that about the worm? Well, we'll see in that video. Second Thessalonians 1:8-9. In flaming fire, taking vengeance on those who do not know God, and on those who don't obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ, there shall be punishing with everlasting destruction. And that's where people say it's just going to be everlasting destruction. you're going to be destroyed forever. Like, that's not what it says. That's not what it means. Revelation 14:10-11. He himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out in full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. That's like sulfur. In the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night. Will we be able to see that? Will we be witnesses to that? It's quite possible. So here's the Old Testament, Isaiah 66:24. And they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me, for their worm does not die, and their fire is not quenched. They shall be an aberrance to all flesh. You hear that? An aberrance to all flesh. Is that the millennial kingdom when there is flesh? We will be glorified, but in any case. Luke 16:23-24. And being in the torment of Hades. This is where people get technical. Who cares, man? You're going to burn. He lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried out, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. It's just a parable. It's not true. That is true. It is true. Jude 1:7. As Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in similar manner to these, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Sometimes just got to get out of the picture, man. I can tell you this, that I had a brachial plexus injury. You can probably see the atrophy in my shoulder. When you look in these videos, part of my shoulder on the front is atrophy because I had a brachial plexus injury. And with this brachial plexus injury, within a week, I just remember all of a sudden I woke up one morning. So a week I didn't have this because I was paralyzed on that side. Yeah, I lost all function there. And then I woke up with a searing ache, both of them. It was burning, it was aching. And I woke up that way, and the worst injury known that a man can get. That's what it says. A brachial plexus injury. Why? Because all the nerves, it's the biggest branch of nerves in the body, in the shoulder there. And it was so painful that for about, and there is no rest with this type of injury. And it was such a point where I was having to put my hands in my pocket. So I let it go. It was just, oh man. It was aching at a level 10 for 2 years. 2 years. I would wake up 2 hours after I went to bed. It was so bad, man. It was so hard to live during that time. A brachial plexus injury. This was, but you know, it was like electrical pain shocking down my arm. At the same time, it was just burning and aching to a degree I guess you would just call chronically acute. And just to think of that all over the body times 10. In your eyes, in your nose, in your chin, in your butt, in your feet. You're going to be quenched in a flame forever, for eternity. How do you think you're going to tolerate those first 5 minutes? You know what's going to happen? What's going to happen is this. I started reading some of the comments in that video that I'm going to leave the link. And, someone said, the worst thing, it won't be the actual pain itself. It'll be the realization of never being able to have Jesus again. And, I think to myself, will you even be able to think at all with that much pain? I think you will be. Because, although you'll never get used to it, you'll get used to it in a sense that how are you even going to be able to think? With this injury, I couldn't think. I couldn't sleep. But they said that the separation from Jesus would be the worst. I do believe that, because you realize, in a way, I think it's one of two things. I think it's the pain and that. But it's the realization that you don't, in those first seconds, you're going to realize, oh man, I don't have a chance again. It's done. It's over. I don't have a chance again ever to do this. Please, Jesus. You realize how much love he was really trying to give? But now you're going to burn forever. And this is the fate of most people surrounding you. There is such an urgency to preach about hell. Lake of fire. Just take a look at the sun. Just take a look at the sun. What is it, like the own core of our Earth is, I don't know if they said something like 2 billion degrees or something like that. And if the sun, let's just say it's 2 billion degrees, can you imagine being sent there? I don't know how else to explain this. If I went into too much detail, then you would definitely turn it away. But think of the chance you have right now to turn your life around. Most of the stuff I personally talk about is like about the love of Jesus. If you take a look, he gives us so many chances. Learn his character in the Old Testament. That's what I can say to you. I would say read both the Old and the New Testament. At first I'd say read a bit about Jesus, but then go from Genesis and then go all the way through. We barely have any time left, but you still have enough time to read the Bible and learn it, I think. You do. I don't know what else to say. God bless, guys.